Can Robert Redford and Paul Newman pull off the longest con? Hey, I'm Amy and welcome back. Today I will be checking The Sting off the 1001 movie checklist. If you do not know what the 1001 movie checklist or 1001 movie challenge is, it is basically a challenge I've given myself to check every single film out of the 1001 movies you must see before you die book. So far, I have checked 167 films off the list. If you want to know more, there's a playlist up in the corner there with every single film I have checked off so far, plus a little intro video to explain it all a little bit better. As always, let's get started with a short summary. When small-time grifter Johnny Hooker unknowingly steals from crime boss Doyle Lonigan, he teams up with the master of the long con, Henry Gondorff. The two devise a complicated scheme with a group of other con artists, while Hooker avoids crooked cop Snyder sent by Lonigan. If you had watched the end of the last 1001 video where I announced that I was going to be checking this film off the list this week, you will have seen that this one was actually a request for one of my Patreon bonus feature videos. Side note, if you have not checked out my Patreon, you really should. I post so much extra content over there, it's pretty crazy. But this is actually my first requested 1001 challenge video because it was requested for a bonus video review on my Patreon, but because it was only 1001, I couldn't do it then. So I promised I would do it as soon as I'm finished with any of the Oscar stuff. So here we go. We're gonna be talking about The Sting with Robert Redford and Paul Newman. I actually really enjoyed this. I love old films from the 70s, and pretty much I love old films in general, but this one, it just had that old 70s film feel that I really loved. The story is very simple. It's easy to follow. There are some twists and turns throughout that you kind of see coming, but I was honestly very surprised with how the end turned out. At first, I was pretty sure that Gondorff and Hooker would end up with all of the money and they would pull off the con because that's usually what happens. But when the FBI raids, I was kind of surprised when Hooker gets shot and then Gondorff gets shot.
Get him out.
And I was like, okay, maybe this isn't going to go as expected and it's going to end with everyone dying in a big shoot 'em up scene, but it didn't. Spoiler alert if you haven't seen this, but you know, honestly, you should know that by now if you've ever watched any of these videos. But I was honestly surprised and really enjoyed the end of this. I also was kind of surprised by the lack of romance in this film. Usually there is a lot of romance subplots in films like these. There was one very small one that ended very abruptly when Hooker gambled all of his money away.
Thanks for the big evening, Hooker. Next time you want to spend $50 on me, mail it.
And then there was the one with the diner waitress that also ended very abruptly when the guy sent by Gondorff shot her because she was also a spy.
She was gonna kill you, kid. Her name's Loretta Salino. Lonigan's people set her up in the diner.
But that relationship in particular, which was probably the biggest romantic relationship within the film, was not played upon a whole lot until the very end. Not the very end, but the last. It was only like a maybe 10-minute section of the film, which I thought was very refreshing because a lot of films nowadays, if this film was made today, there would be an entire subplot of romance between Hooker's character and the diner waitress. There would be like this entire subplot where they have this whole romantic montage of getting to know one another and falling in love, and she falls in love with him, and then in the end she feels sorry for him and she doesn't want to kill him, but then she has to, but gets killed by the person that Gondorff sends anyways. I really liked that they didn't have that in this because it just felt very simple, very clean, and it was mostly about the relationship between Hooker and Gondorff's characters, which is something that I also really enjoyed in this film, was the way that they build Hooker's relationship to all of the other characters. You first get a really great feel for his relationship with Luther, how he looks up to Luther as a father figure. Even though you don't get a full backstory on the two of them, you see that they play off each other really well in that first con that they pull off of one of Lonigan's men. You also get a great relationship between him and Luther's family, and you really understand his emotions when Luther is killed by the hands of some of Lonigan's men, and you see his feelings towards Luther's family as well, because he does have such a tight-knit relationship with them. And then when he starts working with Gondorf, you do feel that father-son relationship as well, because Gondorf is a little bit of a mentor to Hooker. They still have a really great bond and a great friendship, and you see other relationships not as prevalent as the one that he has with Gondorf, with all of the other con men that are in on the Lonigan con. You even get to see a great relationship form between Hooker and Lonigan, because he is playing on that side too, to bring Lonigan into the full con. And on the technical side of this film, I really enjoyed the cinematography. I thought it was very well done, and even though some of it is not anything new for the 1970s, there were one or two shots that I really enjoyed, because you do see them in today's films, but they're nothing special sometimes. They just feel a little bit overdone, or they're done in too obvious of a way. In this film, this one particular one that I'm thinking of, it's done in such a subtle way that I really loved it. It felt so new and different, even though it's not anything new or different, especially now. And the sound design and music I thought was really well done as well. A lot of the sound is just very natural sounds. There's very little music happening. The only time they really use music is to intro into a location, or when they're doing title cards. They very rarely use music that is not already part of the scene. They don't use any non-diegetic songs, music. It's all anything that you would have heard when they were filming. I take back what I said about there not being a lot of non-diegetic music in this film. There is some times where they have music extraneous to the scene, but it does give it a little bit of a goofy feel, because it is the vaudevillian piano style that is kind of the music of the time. It felt a little goofy, but at the same time it worked really well in my opinion. The clip I chose for the sting is one that I really love, because it shows just how sneaky Gondorf can be.
Four nines. Four jacks.
And that is all I have for the sting. As always, these are just my opinions, but I'd love to know yours in the comments down below. What are your thoughts on the sting? Let me know. Did you enjoy Paul Newman and Robert Redford's team up? If you want to know which films I have already watched, or just follow along with my progress, there is a link to a Google Doc in the description down below with a list of every single film I have checked off so far. I'm also an Amazon affiliate, so if you would like to start the challenge for yourself, watch the film I talked about this week or watch the film I'm going to be talking about next week. There are links in the description. If you purchase anything from those, I'll get a little bit of a percentage back and it'll help make this channel even better. For the next film I'm going to be checking off, I wanted to continue the Robert Redford, Paul Newman, and George Roy Hill streak with Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid. But thank you guys so much for watching. I really truly do appreciate every single one of you. Let me know who you are in the comments down below and let's be friends. If you enjoyed this, leave a like and subscribe if you're new, because I love talking on things, movies, TV shows, filmmaking, history, all that fun stuff, and I'll see you next time. Bye!